Dear Casey, well, we miss you already. I borrowed your clubs and met Buzz Passion at Bobolink yesterday. It rained all day and we didn't play. Gigi was in your room this morning.
I remember when my son Jimmy and I went to see the movie October Sky. In the opening credits, they flashed on the screen Colwood, West Virginia, and I leaned over to him and said, I think that's the place your dad spent that summer working after high school.
And I thought, well, that's nice. That's what an interesting coincidence that is, that, you know, this book and this movie is made about Colwood, where I spent that summer. In October of 2009, Hillary and I went to Colwood, West Virginia. We had to meet some people that had come back into our lives, and particularly come back into my life in a very remarkable and unexpected way.
On November 3rd of 2008, I was in my law office in San Diego. I'm a real estate lawyer. And my secretary brought in a message for me, and she said, you just got a call from a woman named Emily Buckberry. And she said, you guys were in Colwood together many, many years ago, and she has something of yours, and she wants to return it to you. And I sat there, and I go, Emily Buckberry, I don't remember her at all.
I told his secretary, tell him I have something for him that he left in Colwood 40 years ago. And I figured, as handsome as he is, they probably thought it was a baby, and she couldn't get in his office fast enough, I bet.
In 1968, right after I graduated from high school, I went to Lake Park High School just outside of Chicago, Illinois. And my father and grandfather had a company called Case Foundation Company based in Chicago. And they had gotten a job from Olga Coal Company to install a ventilation shaft for a new section of the mine that Olga was going to be opening. So my dad thought it'd be a good idea if I came to Colwood and spent the summer working on that job. I moved into the clubhouse. I had an apartment on the second floor. And I used to play guitar out on the porch in front of the clubhouse, and Emily Buckberry was there too.
And I would sit on the porch and read while he was over with the younger kids playing his guitar and everything.
It was just a real unique summer for me. I mean, from a kid from Chicago, Illinois, you know, to be in a place, you know, unlike any I'd ever been. But after I left Colwood in '68, then I went to college, then I went to law school, and I got married to my beautiful wife, Hillary. We had 2 children. We're living in San Diego. And I hadn't thought about Colwood for many, many years. And I get this call. And Emily says, when you left to go home, I wanted to come say goodbye to you. And so I went upstairs and I saw that you had left. And outside of your room, next to a wastebasket,
there was this letter that said personal. So I picked it up and I thought, let me read this and see if it's something I should get to him. Maybe he dropped it.
She saw that it was a letter from my father. It was written on June 19, 1968.
I hope you find your work interesting and contribute to the project. I don't consider myself as successful. Therefore, I'm not going to preach to you. I do want you to know that we love you.
And she goes, well, this is the most beautiful letter I've ever read. And it's a letter full of advice and love and things like that. So she said, I kept it. And every so often I'd move and I'd come across this letter and I said, gosh, I got to get this letter back to Casey. But then I'd put it away and say, well, you know, I'm too busy or whatever. And so it stayed in boxes. You know, after all those years, 40 years later, she says, well, now we've got Google, so I can Google Casey.
So, thanks to Google, and I hang on to stuff, and I had it in storage with some other things.
So she calls me up on November 3rd and says, I've got this letter from your father that I want you to have. What I didn't tell her then was that 2 years after my summer here in Colwood, my father took his life. He had some serious financial problems. I think he had some post-World War II stress syndrome. He spent 2 years in the South Pacific. He was a highly decorated Army officer. He got a Legion of Merit, 2 Bronze Stars, but I think he came back with a lot of wounds that we couldn't see. So, you know, the fact that she has this letter from my father, because he never said goodbye to me. He never wrote me another letter after that letter, and I never got a letter like that before from him. And the thing of it is, when I read it, I said, it's the first time I've read this. I don't remember this at all.
Should you want and ask my advice, I'll give it to you. However, I don't expect you to follow my advice blindly. For you are now a man and must follow your own route.
And then the next question she asked me is, well, tell me, do you have kids? And I go, well, yes, I do. We have a daughter, Brittany. And I said, well, Emily, I don't know how I'm going to tell you this, but we had a son, Jimmy, 24 years old, and he was home from Los Angeles in early August. He was working up there writing screenplays and writing plays. He went out to a party, had some beers, and decided, I'm not going to drive home, I'm going to walk home. And while he was walking home, he was struck and killed by an automobile and instantly killed. And I told her, I said, you know, you have no idea how unbelievable this is that you are now today, you know, calling me and telling me you've got something from my father. The letter came on Saturday, November 8th. We had spent the day at the beach with my mother, who's 88 years old, and my daughter and her husband. And we came back, and the letter was in the mailbox. I opened up the letter, and it was the original letter from my dad that Emily had kept for 40 years.
Please remember this from here on. Only you can control your destiny. Give some thought to what you want to become and do. If your ambitions are high, go to work. I'll be around. Anytime you want me, I'll be there because I care more than you'll ever know. My son, all love. Dad.
I put that letter down, and I felt like he was in the room with me, as was my son. And what I neglected to mention earlier was that day, November 8, 2008, when the letter came, that was our son's 25th birthday. It came on his birthday. And my dad was there for me. He knew that day was going to be one of the hardest days of my life, and he was there with me. He was there as he promised he would be. We were in the depths of our grief, and this was like an angel had lifted us up with this wonderful, wonderful gift, really from my father and my son. God bless Emily Buckberry every day for having stumbled on that letter, for having kept it all these years, and for God knows whatever reason, calling me when she did and getting me the letter on that day. Is I couldn't have asked for any better gift than that. Here we are. I never thought I'd be back in Colwood again. There's something magical about this place. It certainly had a much bigger role in my life than I ever could have imagined, and I'm forever grateful.